welcome to another episode, and today we are talking all about the things that I find difficult about life here in Italy. Now, don't get me wrong, moving to Italy was by far the best decision I've ever made, and I absolutely love living here and I embrace it all because let me tell you, that is the key to being a successful expat and having a successful experience is to embrace everything, the ups and the downs. But it doesn't mean that I don't find it tough sometimes. And I want to be super transparent because I think it's very easy to post beautiful pictures on Instagram and talk about all the positive aspects, and this is important, but it's also important to be able to share some of the tougher moments that you have as well, in a way that can help other people, not in a way that extinguishes people's dreams. This is the balance. So today I want to share some of those aspects with you in the hope that they can help you to have a more broader perspective of what life really is like here in the south of Italy. So let's get into it, shall we? So the first thing that I find difficult about living here in Italy is, of course, the language barrier. I have been on a real journey with this, and I speak about all of my language trials and tribulations in some of the videos on my YouTube channel. So I've done a video up here, I'll link it above, where I talk about how I discovered the importance of mindset in terms of learning a language, because the reality is if your mindset is not right, it doesn't matter what tools and techniques and resources you have available, you simply will not absorb anything and make any progress. It really all does begin with your mindset. You might have the knowledge, but without the mindset, without the right attitude, it's wasted. So I've really discovered this, and I've also done another video, I'll link it above again, where I talk about some of the tools and techniques that I have currently adopted in my Italian language learning, which are really helping me finally to master and grasp this beautiful language. Because honestly, let me tell you, without speaking the language, it's one of the most difficult and toughest things about living in another country. I love living here in Italy, and especially here in the south, because the people are so friendly and warm-hearted. But when you cannot engage back with them and you can't have that interaction, you isolate yourself immediately, and you make things like forming friendships and connections so incredibly difficult because you just simply cannot understand one another. And not just that, but like your day-to-day tasks, like mundane things that you wouldn't think twice about doing in your home country, just becomes so complicated. And I find that for some of the most simple tasks that I could do without even batting an eyelid in the UK, I need to have a friend with me to translate, or I need somebody to take me somewhere to complete it. It's just so different to what I'm used to, and I have really found this tough. And I think, you know, now I feel a lot more confident and a lot more settled here, but certainly when I first moved here, I was like a mute for like the first year and a half. I'd go out with my friends, but I'd just sit there in silence, and I felt like my personality was like slowly eroding away, and it was really, really tough. So I would urge anyone like who's thinking of moving to Italy or to any other country where your language is not spoken, please take the time to begin to learn the language. It's so important. And in a way, I wish I had begun my language learning earlier, but then again, I think everything always happens for a reason. And the fact and the ability that I have had to adapt to life here, considering my Italian is similar to that of a 3-year-old, I am so incredibly proud, and it will make the realization and the actualization of me finally being able to speak Italian even more rewarding. So I don't beat myself up for this, but I do think taking the time to learn a language will make an incredible difference to your expat experience. So the second thing that I find difficult about living here, especially here in the south of Italy, is the pace of life. Now, I understand things are different in other regions. Maybe in the north of Italy, it's a little bit more like London, but certainly here in the south of Italy, it's like London in slow-mo. Like there are siestas, and as I've mentioned in some of my previous videos, the shops will close here around 1:30 and reopen around 5 o'clock. And I struggle with that because if I have a gap in my working schedule and I want to pop out and do something, often in the afternoons everything's closed, and so you have to be really strategic about when you want to go to the shops, because you have this chunk of time in the afternoon when nothing is open. And I'm used to being in the UK where you could always find a shop open, and some shops were open 24 hours a day, to come here where the shops operate very traditional opening hours. And you know, as much as it's nice that they're open a little later in the evening, if you're working, it doesn't really help you so much. So I definitely find this difficult. And you know, I like a siesta now. I like the little afternoon lull where you have a little nap. But sometimes it can be a little bit boring, particularly because now we're in a red zone and there's nothing to do anyway. So you're pretty much having an all-day siesta. And it's like, yeah, I'm not used to this at all. I definitely am used to making the absolute most of life and of every single moment. And I just sometimes feel like the afternoon siestas are like such a waste of time, but it's a completely different culture here, and I do embrace it because I do like the power of being in the now and yeah, the benefits it can bring. So just this. So the third thing that I find difficult about living here is the bureaucracy. Now, don't get me wrong, it wasn't as terrible as people told me it might be in some of these expat groups, but it is antiquated. And don't expect to come here and expect to find online portals or systems where you can seamlessly sort out everything you need to do, because it doesn't work that way. Here it's very old-fashioned. You need to go to each individual office to get things sorted out. There isn't a uniform body that deals with everything that you need to sort out. And prior to COVID, there wasn't really the online facility to do things, but obviously they've had to adapt slightly because of the COVID restrictions and allow more things to be done through the online medium, but it isn't how the systems are built. Like here, you have to visit every single office, and it can mean sometimes that you spend your whole day running around the town if they send you somewhere else and somewhere else and somewhere else. Yeah, it's something I'm not used to. I'm used to getting everything done in one place at one time, and that's it. Like, it's a very, very, very different way of life here. And the fourth thing that I find difficult here is just the old-fashioned culture. There is definitely a very traditional culture here, particularly in the South, about roles and responsibilities of women, for example, and you know, the way that the house is run and managed. And I find this difficult because I come from a very forward-thinking country where women are like, you know, just as valid as men. Of course, inequality still exists, don't get me wrong, but there's definitely more of an incentive to progress and do more as a woman in the UK than I feel like there is here in the very south of Italy. And it's different. It's a different culture. I can't criticize it because I come from a different country, but it is something I struggle with because, you know, in my head, women aren't made to just clean the house and cook. Women can be super successful business owners and entrepreneurs and career driven. And I do see examples of that here, don't get me wrong, but on a whole, typically, it is a very traditional country, and these cases are the exceptions and are few and far between. So I feel like this is something I struggle with, as well as the passion of the people here, because I come from the UK and sometimes we can be a little bit prim and proper and we don't always express ourselves in the same way. But here, oh my goodness, the hand gestures, what do you speak? Sometimes I'm like, wow, are they having a full-on argument or are they just happy to see each other? Like literally, it's like a completely different way of life. And 9 times out of 10, they're just happy to see each other. But the way that they're speaking and the way they're communicating is you think they are having a full-blown argument. And I find that difficult sometimes. So yes, this is something else that I find tricky about living here, is deciphering body language, deciphering cultural differences. But it will come with time. And the fifth and last thing that I find difficult about living here in Italy is the shopping experience. Now, unlike the UK and many other countries, there isn't so much of a culture for online shopping. Now, don't get me wrong, for the big brands and the big companies, of course, they have an online presence, but for the individual shop on the high street, it's very rare for them to have a website or an online presence. And when this pandemic hit, it absolutely ripped the carpet out from underneath their feet because they weren't prepared not to be able to open their businesses and have in-presence customers anymore, because they didn't have this online facility. So I think it's really opened my eyes a lot to the more traditional way of shopping here. And also, for example, if you buy something that you don't like or doesn't suit your needs, your refund and exchange policies here are very different to how they are in the UK. So in the UK, typically you'll be given a month or 30 days to exchange something if it doesn't quite fit your needs, depending on what you buy and on where you buy it from, of course. But generally it's around that time frame, whereas here, if you are given that possibility, it's usually only for about a week. And even if in that time you want to exchange something or get a refund, often it will just be a straightforward exchange or credit note. They won't necessarily give you your money back. So it's extremely different here. And, you know, like, I find that difficult to adapt to. And also, when you buy something, if the price is incorrect on the shelf and you end up paying more at the till, they don't honour that price like they would in the UK. They charge you whatever it comes up on the till as. So these are little adjustments that I find difficult, because I find it makes my shopping experience a lot more considered, because you have to be more careful about the things you buy, because you know you're not necessarily going to get your money back or an exchange if it isn't the right thing. So yeah, it definitely makes you pay more attention to what you're buying than you would perhaps if you were in the UK. So yeah, these are 5 things that I find difficult about my life here in Italy. Of course, I love it here, and I'm going to do a video next week about the things that I love, because, you know, it's good to balance the scales. But I thought it was important to be transparent today and to talk about some of the things that I find difficult. And I hope this has helped you to have a more balanced and considered view of life here in Italy. So if you like my channel, please consider subscribing and hitting the bell notification so you know when my videos go live. Until next time.